Okay, so this is a little walkthrough on some of the various skills that you will demonstrate in homework 3. First we're going to go into the virtual lab as we did with SPSS. And you should have a copy of your data on the OneDrive or somewhere you can access it, hopefully. Again, if you're stuck with the virtual lab issues that some people have, one hack around is you can use email to email things in and out of the virtual lab. Okay, this is not nice. I'm trying to make a recording. This is not a good time to fail. Alrighty then. I just recently changed my password, so this is just going to take a little longer than usual, but not too long. Alright, so I will show you how to unhide extensions, which can be useful at times. I may or may have not shown you this before, but this is step 3. Alright, once we log in here, we're going to go to the control panel and type File, Explorer, Options. My extensions are already revealed, but this is what I want to be able to see, that that's a do file, for example. And I'm going to say File, Explorer, Options. And this is the box I'm looking at, and I want to click on the View tab, and I want to make sure this thing is unchecked. Hide extensions for known file types should be unchecked, and then apply and OK. And that's the behavior that you want if you want to be able to change the extensions, which is sometimes necessary because sometimes this isn't recognized as a text file and the computer will give you hassles. This is true on any Windows system. Notice that my OneDrive is not working. It's because of my password. So I'm just going to go ahead and fix that. Okay, and it just asked for my password. It is sort of syncing and thinking about what it wants to do. If you just type in your new password, it's going to go through different phases. You'll see this icon change. There's several different phases it goes through. But when it finally looks like this, it means hopefully everything's okay. All right. So now I'm going to create a do file from inside STATA. So I'm going to open STATA, and I'm actually going to create it and then run it and close it again to show you the process. Unlike my advice for the previous lesson, I advise you to feel free to start and stop this as you wish. You don't have to do it in one fell swoop. Okay. Alright, and so if there's any kind of welcome to STATA windows, you can just close them, and what you're going to see is why is this not popping out on me? I want to show you, there it is, all your 5 windows, your 5 frames inside. So your main output frame is this big thing in the middle, that's your results. Commands are down here. Alright, DI means display, but yeah, so if you want to just calculate something quick, you just have to type DI so it will display the result. And then you have your panel over here. Here's all your old commands. If you're like, wait, just do that one again, you can just double click on it, or if you single click, it allows you to come down here and change it up. Okay, so that's very useful. You can make this a different size. You can full screen it if you want. And the variable space is here, and your properties window is here. So you can just sort of think of this as 5 regions where you might need to look for things. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and create our do file. Window, click on Window, do File Editor, and New Do File Editor. And it looks like it's glued down, but it's not. It's free floating. It's just the window is kind of weird. So what you want to do is start with a star. That means comment. Put your header. Okay, stuff like that. Okay, now you're going to type the first command in here, which is the word clear. That ensures that whenever you start off, you're getting a clear sweep, and you're not just saving variables from the previous session. All right, so I'm going to hit Control S. I guess I'm not going to hit Control S. My control keys are not working, so I have to say save. If I were on a regular computer, I could go ahead and save that. I could save this in my OneDrive, which is where I recommend that you save it. Give it a title other than untitled, but I'm just giving it a pathetic title. All right, I just want to put some pathetic command in there to make sure that it works. File, save. Now this little icon right here, it looks like a piece of paper with a blue triangle. That's your execute button, and it should execute the whole sheet. And what happened is over here it executed this whole sheet right there. Okay, and that is fine. All right, we just double checked that it did execute my sheet. It just echoes everything it sees with little dots, and then it gives the output in between the little dots. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. I'm going to go ahead and close Stata. I'm going to make sure I can get back into it from the top. I don't know why this window is here, but I will go back to all resources and try to come in from there and make sure everything still works. So this is this optional stage 4H, instruction 4H. Close the do file, close Stata, reopen Stata, and reopen the do file. And this is all to make sure this is working. I happen to be in the same directory because it's remembering where I was. That might not happen. And I want to go ahead and execute it. I'll use this button here and make sure everything's still fine. So the idea is your work process is going to be that you're continually editing this do file, and this display 6+6, we don't need that. But that was just to make sure everything was working properly. Okay, now we want to import our data. So in this main file, we need to use some of these menus. So unlike when we were in SPSS, if you recall, all the menus were the same in both of the windows we were working in, but this is not the case in Stata. In Stata, the two menu systems, they work slightly different sometimes. So you've got to be more aware of where you're using the drop-down menus from. All right, so some things can only be accessed from the main window. So I want to import. Make sure you don't use open, use import. And I'm gonna grab some kind of data file. Now to browse, this little button means browse. It's kind of cryptic, but it's a little yellow folder. And I'm gonna use my homework 1A, but I'm not gonna end up using that for my homework if I'm a student. But you can go ahead, if you want to practice, you can use your homework 1A just for practice, okay? Notice I don't want you to use it for your submission. Now, we just learned how to import, and we just learned our first trick. We learned that in Stata, many things are menu driven. However, we're going to grab those commands. I'm going to copy that command and I'm going to dump it over here. All right. And then I'm going to save it so that the next time, actually I want to get rid of this space here. Sorry about that. But this is our workflow. We're going to trap everything. We're going to capture everything useful in our do file. And the great thing about it is when it executes, all of our commands from our do file are going to automatically export to this window here. And when I receive your homework, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just execute the command directly. And if you figure out how to read the data directly off the web, then you do not need to include the data file with the do file. But most of you will probably have a separate data file. So in this case, I want you to upload the data file and the do file. And obviously I'm going to have to change this address when I run your file because it will be in a different place for me, but that's okay. But still leave the import command in there so that I know that you know how to use it. Okay, so, oh, another thing to be wary of, some of the commands, like they might wrap around. This is okay, this is a normal wraparound, but sometimes when the commands wrap around, you'll see a symbol that looks kind of like, it'll do this kind of thing. If you see that, you have to erase those symbols and heal the line. So like if you do a copy paste and it looks like this to you, then you know you have to fix that so that the command works properly. So just be aware of that property. Okay. I'm just going to show you a couple things. Let's see, if I'm over here and I say data editor, I can either browse or edit, it doesn't matter. I may as well use browse, it's a little safer. But this lets me see all my data. And I'm going to go ahead and recode T and S. So I'm going to start in the command line and make sure it works before I copy it into my do file. If you prefer, you can type directly into your do file. If you highlight something and hit execute, it will only execute that line as opposed to executing the whole file. So there's different patterns you can use, but I find it easier to just type here because it's less, what can I say? It feels less threatening to just do it right here because if it doesn't work, I'm not going to copy it over. I'm going to show you what the data editor looks like at this point. It's not entirely useful because I created a new variable, but if t equals 1, I say agree. If t equals 0, it's not anything, and that's kind of disturbing. All right, so what I'm going to do, so I just generated a new variable. However, I need to replace those spaces or blanks. Hold on. Replace reply equals disagree if t equals 0. And then let me see if it worked this time. One thing that's kind of weird about STATA is you have to close this and reopen it all the time. If you just leave your data window open, it won't automatically refresh and you'll be very confused. All right, so I'm going to copy this. And this other one. So copy, so you use gen means generate, and then replace, gen and replace. Okay, and then save that. And you go through the whole homework like that go ahead and recode both variables that, okay, so I'm using TNS, but you're going to recode any two variables you like. I'm just going to pause the video while I do another one. Okay, and you can see my second recoded variable succeeded right there. I'm going to do this little thing out of sequence. I'm going to show you how to do a chi-square on those recoded variables. So if you hit statistics, summaries, tables, etc., and then you're going to do frequency tables two-way. And then you're going to use the row and column that you just created, the recoded variables. And under test statistic, ask for Pearson's chi-square. Don't do it in the cell. If you do it in the cell, it'll give you the components, and I just don't want to see that. But I do want expected frequencies. Where is that? They're over here. All right? And so I think those are the only things I asked you for. And so this should come up nicely. Okay? So that worked, and so I'm going to put this over here. All right, I'm going to save this. And then I'm going to show you how this whole thing works. I'm going to close this down, close this down. I don't need to save anything, but I'm going to go ahead and open up STATA and show you that everything should just work. I do recommend that you close everything down early in the process before you've gone too far, before you feel like you'd be upset if you lost it. All right, so just make sure this process works. You're going to open up your do file, and then you're going to say execute. If you're not highlighting anything, it should just execute everything, and it should just redo everything we just did. It gives your heading, it clears, imports your data, does your recoding, and then starts doing whatever your graphics or whatever. So there's going to be output in this window, but there's also going to be graphics. And when the graphics come up, I'm just going to look at them and then close them. So that will happen. And there's a couple other things I wanted to mention about this homework. Most of it I'm going to just leave you on your own with it. But I wanted to draw attention to the fact that there's a couple places where I make you look stuff up online. So let's see. All right, so you need to often open up Google or some other browser window that with a search engine, and then you're going to type something like, all right, QQ plots in STATA. All right, but there's a lot of stuff here, so I want your eye to focus on where it says Manuals 13. All right, so if you scan through, there's lots and lots of stuff. But the one that says Manuals 13 in the name, that's the one that you're interested in, okay? That's the official documentation, and that's where I want you to look. And once you get there, you'll see it has this common pattern, stata.com, Manuals 13, and then the name of the file. And so whenever I say that, this is how you're going to look, and I'll say, hey, look at page 4 of this file or whatever, and I'm going to give you clues. And you're going to use the syntax that you find here, and then you're going to try to figure out what the command is, and you're going to type the command down here and execute it. Okay? So you need to be aware of your variable names, which if you forget your variable names, you can just peek in the data editor to remind you what your variable names are. And you're going to need the command names, and you're going to also need punctuation. So sometimes it's going to look like that kind of grammar. But I want you to start slowly getting used to the grammars that different computers might use. In one of the exercises, I tell you to Google something. I think it's number 12. You need to Google the command, but you don't know the command until you explore inside STATA. So it's a technique I want you to use, which is I want you to go ahead, I'm not going to do this for you, but you're going to do it for yourself. You're going to pretend like you're moving yourself down here. You're going to do, by the way, there's two different things I want you to try. The t-test, mean comparison, and the z-test, mean comparison. Don't use the calculators. So use t-test and then z, or z and then t. I don't care what order you're in. But use those functions and do what I ask you to do. But it will fail because you're going to try to do a z-test and break up by group, but you have multiple groups. If your data set only has 2 groups, it will actually succeed, and that's okay too. But for most people, this will fail because it'll say you have too many groups. But that's okay, because what will happen is it will echo on your screen the name of the t-test command or the name of the z-test command, and then that's going to give you something that you can go up here in Google and you can type it in and type STATA, and then it's going to take you, you're going to go to Manuals 13 page on that command, and then you're going to learn more about it. So I'm teaching you how to extract information from the error messages so that you can go dig and actually figure out what it is you were trying to do. Now, I'm writing the word command, but it's actually going to be whatever command you figure out is the correct command. Okay, so I'm just going to write the word command, and in order to split by group for real, you're going to say if group equals you, and you have to use your own grouping variable, you have to use your own variable names and everything. Okay, so this is going to be what you figure out you should be doing. That's going to be the command structure you would use if you were not grouping. That thing that I've written, command X, you're going to figure that part out, okay? And then this is the piece of grammar I'm giving you because it's really hard to figure it out by Googling, so I'm just going to give it to you. You're going to say if group equals you, and this is a or symbol, or if group is V, and then split by group. So this is how you're restricting it. So again, look at my data set. In my data set, my grouping variable is called group, and I have, actually this isn't going to work. I have to do like J and L or something like that. You have to make sure you use groups that actually exist in your data, or you're going to get an error message. So you use some variable that exists in your grouping mechanism, and make sure your group, that's where the word group comes from, is the name of this variable, and where the J and the L come from is 2 different groups from within this column. Okay, so that's how you would structure that. And again, this part you have to figure out yourself, and I'm not telling you what that is. That's your research to figure that out. Also in 14, step 14, I ask you to figure out how to split by group. And 16, I ask you to figure out how to split by group. And the reason is that by the time we get down here, you've seen all the techniques that might work for these situations. There's basically 3 different techniques we have for splitting the data by group. Remember back in SPSS we had to split the data, run the test, and then unsplit the data. So you don't have to do that here in STATA, but in SPSS we had to split and unsplit the data. However, the downside here is that there's at least 3 different techniques for splitting by group, and each one is specific to the command you want to use with it. So that's the downside. But once I've introduced you to that, then I'm expecting you to use trial and error to figure out which command is going to be used to split the group for that. Okay? I think that's all I need to tell you, because I've already shown you how to double check that everything's working. You just basically make sure that everything is saved. I accidentally deleted everything before saving it, I think. I don't know. But I'm going to go ahead and open this and just double check that it's still there, and then I will finish the video. All right, so I'm going to say File, Open, and it should be here. And then once I open that, oh, I did save everything. So I can just run everything and everything will come back again. I didn't do a pie chart or anything, so I didn't get any graphics popping up, but you'll normally get graphics popping up, and that's as expected. And I will see those when I run your file. And what else? I want to make sure I go back here, and since I'm saving in the OneDrive, I want to be absolutely sure. I actually should have done this before I closed everything down. I wasn't being very smart, but here it is. Here's my do file, and I might even be able to open that with an editor, and it's right there, so that's reassuring. All right, and so that's what's going to be uploaded, just the do file and possibly a data file. If you research and figure out how to read directly off the internet, then it's not necessary to also upload the data file. But presuming you're going to read the data file the way I showed you, then you need to upload that data. And so I think that's all you need to know. Have a good day.